Hey there, it's me, ya boy, your favorite YouTuber you have never heard about before, and welcome to this video of r/ProRevenge. I've got two quite nice stories for you, so buckle up and enjoy the video. This story is called Ex-Girlfriend Was a Scammer, So I Put Her in the Slammer. Bibbidi boobidi boo, I destroyed the family too. Sorry about the length, but you need the details. TLDR at the end. Around the time that I got my first full-time job and finished college, I decided I was ready to venture out and start dating. I had heard about this amazing app through a few of my coworkers, a little thing called Tinder, so I decided to give it a shot. After about a week on the app, I finally matched with a woman who we'll call Talia. Talia lived in a different city that I did, but the day we matched, she said she was visiting a cousin. We messaged through the app, and after verifying that she was real for her Facebook and Instagram profiles, we exchanged phone numbers. She said she was employed full-time, had an apartment and her own car, and was somehow still single. We talked for about 2 weeks on the phone, always at night after my shift at work, because we finally had a chance to meet when our schedules matched up. I drove my beat-up 1996 Honda Civic to her town, spent that Friday night, I forgot where we waited that night, and the morning we had breakfast we had Waffle House. Talia did have her own apartment, however. She lived next door to her grandmother, who I awkwardly had to meet the next morning. I learned from Talia that her car was actually her grandmother's name, and her apartment was the name of a cousin. She went so far as to show my family portraits with her cousin, to talk about her abusive ex, and even shared with me how her laundry room was embarrassingly infested with flies and roaches. We officially changed our social media to dating that day. Keep in mind that this was my first relationship in almost 4 years, so I was excited. The scam. Talia also told me that day that she had been fired from work about a week earlier, but was too embarrassed to tell me. Asked weekend. I refused. She then explained that she could get a payday loan, which is banned in our state, and could put it into my checking account. I felt uneasy about it and asked if there was another way she could get the loan. Talia said that she couldn't use her grandma's or dad's account because they had burned her in the past. I thought it was weird, but she started crying, so I called my bank, where I had an account since high school graduation, and opened a linked checking account. I gave Talia the new checking number and routing number. Talia contacted a payday loan company in Alabama, and by Sunday morning she had funds in my linked checking account. As per our agreement, I gave her the money. Talia promised to repay the loan within 2 weeks. I had my reservations, but I went back home and back to work on Monday. Talia called me on Wednesday and said she had a new job. I asked if she had the payday loan squared away with her first paycheck. She said she did, but I still got charged $47 2 weeks after she set up the loan. I called my bank, called Talia to verify the payday loan, as I was not the signed person. Talia and I agreed to meet Memorial Day weekend 2 weeks later. She stated that her dad had given her a check for the entire loan amount, $1,800, and that she would deposit it into my bank near her. Like a fool, I let her deposit the check right before Memorial Day weekend. 2 weeks later, the payday loan company charged another $47, plus penalty fees, and another $47. The $1,800 check bounced. Talia stopped answering her calls and blocked me on everything. I called my bank and informed them that I was a victim of fraud. Within hours, my main checking account, into which my paycheck had gone, my savings, with $800 saved for a new car, and the new checking account were closed. My best friend from college, we'll call him Clark, found Talia at 2 of every social media account. The one she shared with me and the one on which she had a boyfriend. Her cousin from her family photos was actually her boyfriend since high school. Talia was about 22 or 23. Her boyfriend, we'll call him Jason, was in prison, but from her social media posts she was visiting him once a month minimum and had plans to marry him. I spent days trying to get back my accounts and my money. One of the representatives from my bank and Clark and my mom advised that I should press charges for fraud. My bank mailed me a copy of a bounced check for criminal investigation purposes, and it showed Jason's name and not Talia's father's name as the owner of the check. That's when I decided to get. As I mentioned before, Talia's apartment had a minor infestation of roaches and flies in her laundry room. While I ran through legal agencies to pursue pressing charges of forgery on the check, fraud, etc., I found the name and phone number of Talia's apartment complex. I left a message for the apartment complex management that Talia and her grandmother both had filthy apartments. Within a week, Clark showed me that Talia had posted a request for temporary housing for her and her grandma since her parents wouldn't let her move in. Talia's payday loan company began calling me, as Talia had given them my phone number instead of hers, and they had not received payment yet. I was still reviewing my legal options at the time. One day I answered and notified the rep who called me transferred to me their legal department, who was very interested. It turned out that Talia's grandma and her father owed to the payday loan company. It wasn't a lot separately, but the payday loan company had enough evidence with my claim that Talia was the ringleader using her family's accounts. I turned over my evidence, including Talia's text messages promising to pay, the copy of the bounced check and my bank statements. By the end of the year, Talia was arrested on several charges. Her grandma and father were also arrested but took pleas for lesser charges in exchange for turning over everything at the trial, but I kept informed. Talia's grandma had a minor heart attack when she was arrested and a more significant one during the trial. I'm not sure if her grandma lived or died after the trial. Despite this, Talia went to prison for multiple counts and will serve more than a decade behind bars. Well, there's one thing I don't like, and that's fraud. She literally just tried to pull it into a scheme. I hope the grandma is okay. I mean, she didn't do very good things, but also it wasn't really her fault for the whole scheme of the Talia. So I just hope the grandma's okay, and I really hope that girl is now behind bars. Creepy guy lies about his age, takes me on a cheap date, and sticks me with an $80 dinner bill. Loses his job. I was 17 when this happened. He had told me he was 19. It's also not illegal in my state. I met him through a friend of mine. I saw him on a friend's Snapchat story while I was using her phone, asked for a snap, and he added me back. You know, the whole process. I disclosed that I was 17, and he said he was fine with it, seeing as he just turned 19. Anyway, we talked for a few days, and I learned that he lived not too far away from me, worked at a mall nearby, and that we had a lot in common. We planned our date for a Tuesday, which was strange, and he drove me to a theater that's about 40 minutes from my house and an hour from his. Where I live, we get there, and I asked him if we can get snacks. He said both of us combined, but it didn't really matter at the time. It will. We saw a movie I really had no interest in seeing, but I guess it was alright. He tried to do the old arm around the shoulders trick, which I quickly shut down and asked him politely to not do again. He seemed alright and apologetic. Anyway, we leave the theater and he asked where I would like to eat. I say Chili's, so we go to Chili's. I, at the time, had been working at McDonald's and was very excited when I got a notification on my phone as we drove that said my first paycheck had been deposited into my account, so I stupidly say out loud, "Just got paid!" That was my downfall. We get there, and the first thing he immediately does is order 4 appetizers, and to my horror, orders a drink, and when the waitress cards him, he hands her a horizontal ID. I don't know if other states are the same, but in mine you get a vertical ID until you're 21, and a horizontal one when you're older than 21. I asked him if that was a fake ID, and he just said, "No, I'm 23. I used to be a real pushover kind of girl. Also the time was nearing 11, and I was worried my parents would have been mad at me if I called them to pick me up, seeing as the restaurant was a good 30 minutes from my house. I was also scared that he would get angry or violent if I tried to leave, so I didn't. He gets his drink and orders 2 more throughout the night, on top of a steak, a bunch of sides, and of course 2 desserts. All I had was a burger that I didn't even finish because I was so nervous that I was on a date with an adult 6 years older than I, who'd also been drinking. Anyway, the waitress comes around and she nicely hands me a bill and says, "When you're ready." Without hesitation he grabs it, hands it to me with a smile and says, "You got this, right?" I didn't even know what to do. I was so meek and easily manipulated that I just put my card in the billfold. I left a $7 tip for a woman, so the bill came out to about $87. We got in the car, he drove me home, tried to give me a kiss and said, "Let's do this again." I blocked his number as I walked down my driveway. Flash forward to this past summer when I was 18, at the shopping mall he worked at with my friends. Due to some injuries in my legs, I had gained a little bit of weight, but nothing major. We were in the store he worked at, which is a pretty big store. I had forgotten he worked there, until I saw his smug ass, and it was clear he remembered me. He came up to us with a shit-eating grin, and asked us if there was anything he could help us with. We didn't need help, just looking around, but he made sure to say to me, "Wow, you've leveled out since the last time I've seen you. You look good." Now, I'm a curvy girl. I get this sort of thing a lot. But on top of the bill, the drinking, the lying, and the creepiness that he had thought a date with a 17-year-old was acceptable, I had it. I just smiled politely at him, asked my friends if they wanted to go to another store, and as we left his, I called the store and demanded to speak to the manager. I was pretending to sob, saying how he had made fun of my body, acted poorly to my friends and that I would never be stepping foot in the store again, and that I wanted to cooperate its number. Exaggerated bullshit. I didn't know in any sexual harassment terms, because I'm not gonna accuse someone of being something like that, but I was making a scene. I lodged a complaint with 5 different department leaders at the corporate call center and told them I felt uncomfortable shopping in any of their stores ever again because of the treatment I had been subjected to, blah blah blah. 6 days later, hanging out with the friends who set me up with him, she asked me if I remember him. Yes I do, I say. She shows me his Snapchat story. All black, white text. Cannot believe I just got fired after 2.5 years for no reason. Turns out his company was an at-will employer. We didn't even have to give him a reason for firing him. He probably doesn't even know it was me. Well, he might now, but that's fine. He was working his way through film school and had to pick up an overnight job at a fast food place to make ends meet. Well, maybe even r/am I the asshole? I mean, no, you're not the asshole. I mean, you did cause quite a scene. And maybe over-exaggerated a bit, but I mean, that guy was a pervert. He got what he deserved, and I believe you did the right thing. He just got what was coming to him and what he deserved.